menteri rang ba jong kejela ukon rat kesang ma mentakas ngi ulayat hu hakamat ke igdor war baka jingthmu jong ke sorkar jela ban penia de ki bos ban kid ik khynnah skul kalak ban pulom namar pa bun ki skul kilapan pau ye ke jing ban penia je kini ki skul bos ula ong batang hal jum khra badhan kiti kirah dokum ba ar nyaw hajar ngut ki khynnah skul bat na pedeng kini ki ar nyaw hajar kumba 100% nakini ki khynnah skul kidai ki papenan kam da ka kali simet jongki gunrat ulayat hu ya kane hak bajubab ya ka jingkeli kawar wanrah do MLA kanong thamai ba Charles Pengro.
Your supplementary question, please, by Charles.
Honourable Speaker, in the reply of the Honourable Chief Minister, he says that the government does not intend to make school buses compulsory. May I know why, sir? The answer is no.
Sir, for this entire process, I would like to go into the background. That the idea, of course, is to reduce the congestion in the city. And we have approximately 27,000 students who are commuting to schools in the Laimukra and Dhankiti area. And almost 60% of the schools, students use private mode of transportation. So, keeping that in mind, a lot of discussion took place with the stakeholders, which is the schools themselves, the parents, the police, government, administration, and a number of efforts were made to coordinate with the schools to start these bus services. But we found that the schools were very reluctant. A lot of them were reluctant to run the bus services, where they stressed on the fact that it is very complicated, and of course their primary work is to teach and not run bus services. And hence we were in a very complex situation where we had to achieve the goal of reducing the congestion, yet be sensitive towards the concerns of the parents and the schools. And hence we decided that let us start the process and let us pilot this by starting this innovative program where we get a society to run the buses, and the schools which are ready to work with this society will then be able to start the services. And if we realize and see that it's working well, we could then expand the services, number one. And number two, maybe once the schools see the benefit in this, having the buses, then maybe we could discuss with the schools and then make it into a mandatory proposal where we could have the buses on a mandatory basis. So therefore, this is a process. I'm not saying that we will not make it mandatory, and neither am I saying that we will make it mandatory, but we have to start somewhere. And therefore, we decided that after consulting with all the stakeholders, that this proposal of putting up a society that would run these services in coordination with the schools and the administration and the parents seemed to be the most practical way to start. And then let us move forward and see how it goes, and we can then adapt and adjust as per the situation.
Your next supplementary.
Yes, sir. Well, sir, in the reply of the Chief Minister, he has said that after discussion with many stakeholders, they have found that this proposal may not work. Or at the same time, he has mentioned that perhaps they will have a re-look into the making it mandatory, take into consideration a few examples which they will be experimenting. The question is that let's not look beyond our state in Assam. Even in Shillong, there is a school called the B.K. Bajoria School, which runs multiple school buses from all over the Shillong agglomeration, and they have been doing pretty well. So I would like to suggest to the Honourable Chief Minister, if a case study can be done as to how they are managing Thereby other schools also can be encouraged to do the same, sir. Because requests have come from various quarters to me, and I believe to other MLAs also, especially from children who are from lower economic backgrounds, living in the periphery of the location of where all the schools are located, that is the Limekra, Dhanketi and Fire Brigade region. So requests have come from different villages like Molanray, Naura, Umpling, who have to depend on public transport to bring their children to school. So if some schools have buses, then that will be solved, and coming in taxis by the hundreds will ease congestion. My suggestion, sir, is since the Honorable Chief Minister said he will have a look into it, I'll be grateful if the same can be examined once again, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sir, the concerns of the Honorable Member is absolutely genuine. And what he is saying is exactly what we are doing, sir. That because we found that there was a lot of demand from the parents, from students and from schools also. As I was saying, sir, we did a vast consultation. Almost 6,000 surveys were conducted. More than 1,000 parents and almost 15 schools 22 institutes were consulted. There were more than 100 meetings that took place before we came out with this model. So it's not that it's just been done like that. We have come out with this proposal after consulting with almost every stakeholder. As I said, so more than 100 meetings took place before this model was finalized with almost every stakeholder. And hence, we felt that this model, so just explain it for the benefit of the House, that this is a model which we call STEM, so it's a Sustainable Transport and Efficient Mobility Society. And the idea, sir, is to be able to provide a society that will then run the system of these buses, where number one objective being that the management of these overall buses, the running of these buses, the maintenance of these buses will not be the headache of the schools, but the society will run these buses. And neither the government also will be directly involved in this. The society will be empowered to do the work. So it will serve the purpose of ensuring that, number one, the children are able to get the services. And as I said, we started with 30 buses. If this model works well, then we will expand it into much larger fleets, sir. The second part, sir, which is very, very important to understand, is that by giving the buses to the schools will run it in the morning once and in the afternoon once. What happens on Saturdays and Sundays? What happens on holidays? And hence we realize that maybe the most efficient way to ensure that the buses are utilized in the most efficient manner may not be by giving it to the schools, because schools also are reluctant to take it. So therefore, if the society is given the responsibility, after the school children are dropped in the school in the morning, the society will then plan and see how that bus could be then used maybe to pick up government employees from a particular location. And then also maybe on a weekend, instead of the bus lying in a particular parking place, it can be used for tourism purpose maybe. And tourists can be then taken to locations. So the whole idea of creating a society is to ensure that we are able to run the system in a proper manner. We are able to utilize the overall buses in a much more productive manner, not just for children's dropping in and picking up, but also for other purposes. The idea being to decongest Shillong city. And last but not the least, so very important in fact, that once the society runs this, there will be very, very strict safety measures. Parents were very much concerned that the children's safety is very important. So sir, each of these buses, for example, has a GPS tracking system. So the parents can actually see where the bus has reached on their mobile phones. We will be having about 5 CCTV cameras installed in every bus, which means that if any situation, God forbid, for any kind of safety and security measures that are there. And the people who will be in it will be trained to ensure that the safety and security of the children, most importantly, is kept. So these are all very important factors, and we felt a society running this system would help us achieve all these goals that we had. And as I said, as we move forward, we will see how we would be able to improve the system. And if the schools at a later stage feel that they are ready to run the services themselves, we can definitely explore it. And if we feel that the STEMS model is working fine, then we'll be able to expand the fleet. The point that mentioned by the honorable member regarding the bus services of a particular school, so we can definitely study that model also, and we can ask the team from STEMS to definitely look into it. So I just wanted to give an idea that this model has been developed after a lot of detailed thought process, keeping all these different factors in mind.
Yes, please. Basalan.
So we have seen the history of mispresence actually.
Going on from different areas, we felt that if we continue to be indecisive and not take a decision where to start, then we'll be stuck forever in this mess. And hence, let us take a decision. There is no decision that's always perfect. There will always be plus minus to it. But we found that this particular option was maybe the best possible solution right now to move forward. As we continue, as we see it unfold, as we see the work going on, we will decide. And if we realize that maybe it's not working out in that manner, we will explore the opportunity of also giving it to the schools. And maybe if there are schools who are willing to run, and we will definitely explore that. So we're not closing it. All I'm saying is that we need to start somewhere. And so we thought that this is the best way to start, by taking and carrying everybody along.
So, one last
Yes.
supplementary question, please.
Yes, I think we should experiment, then only we'll know. In the process of experimentation, may I now request the Honorable Chief Minister, if you can experiment from my area first, and let us see the benefits of the scheme. And it's only a humble request if the Honorable Chief Minister will agree to.
Yes, sir. So if I'm not wrong, there are a total of 15 schools that have tied up with us, have signed the MOU, not MOU, but have agreed to avail these services. And I'm pretty sure that some of them are in your constituency also, sir. And in fact, the 15 schools are within the Laimukra Dhanketi area, and I guess adjoining Nongthamai area also. So they have just generically put Laimukra and Dhanketi, but all these areas I'm sure are adjoining to you. So all the schools, I can name out the names of the schools also here. So there are 15 schools, and we're starting off with these, and we will expand it to other parts of the city and to other parts of the state if we find that this particular model is working well. Okay.
Yeah. Mr. Speaker, sir.
Mr. Bright, Vice Chairman. Yes, please.
I would like to ask the Chief Minister, does the proposed introduction of school buses have anything to do with the stopping of public buses from plying in certain areas, like for example, Maulai? Why I'm asking this question, because it was around this time only when this idea was mooted by the government to introduce these government buses, where these public transportation have been stopped from plying through certain areas, which have really affected the people of my constituency.
Sir, this is an entirely different subject. This is regarding school buses. And this being under the planning department, that's the reason I had spoken about this subject and took up this question. The honorable member's concern is about the general bus services, which are transport department, MCC, and other departments that are handling it. So I will not have the specific information, but if this honorable MLA has got concerns, he can write to me, and definitely I will look into the matters.
Yeah, Charles Mang.
Mr. Speaker, sir, may I know from the Honorable Chief Minister, the government of Meghalaya has any intention to give school buses to the school in rural area?
Sir, in general, we are giving school buses to many schools in the rural areas also. Just for example, through my Chief Minister's Special Development Fund, we have been giving school buses to different schools. So that is something that's completely not connected to this, directly to this question. Of course, it is about school buses, but this is about a society and why we're running this particular process. And, but under this particular scheme, we will not be giving the buses to the schools as of now. But under different programs, at a personal level, at MLA level, your MLA scheme is there, SRWP, you could always give school buses to schools in your constituency through MLA scheme and through other schemes that are there of the state government. That is, and the untied funds are there, the flexible funds are there, which they can be used. But under this particular program, this is basically meant for a society that will run this
And
program.
decongestion of
Decongestion of Shillong city.
Yes, one last question.
Okay. Mr. Speaker, sir, I would just like to know from the Honorable Chief Minister, sir, since there's a guideline of safety measure with regard to the implementation of school bus in different schools. So may I know, sir, whether from the department side, whether there's any kind of issuance with regard to the guideline to the different schools, especially in rural area, with regard to having a school bus or running a school bus, sir?
No, sir. This is, as I said, this is not a specific guideline for school buses in the sense that, like a generic order or generic program for school buses through education department or other departments. This is specifically, as I said, regarding the decongestion of Shillong city. And this is specifically regarding realizing that schools are a major part which lead to the congestion because, as I said, 27,000 students study in and around the Laimukra Dhankiti area, and 60% of them use private mode, which means if you multiply this also about 15,000 approximately vehicles are there in and around that area at any when the school is starting and the school is closing. That's the reason why so much congestion. So this has started with that purpose. Regarding making anything mandatory or rules for rural schools to have school buses, there is no program as such. But of course, as I said, which the honorable member from Mahati has also asked, that through different programs and schemes, if individual schools are asking for buses, wherever possible, wherever funds are available, we try to help them.
Sir, one last question, sir, please.
Yes, please.
So why I'm raising this particular question, sir, because just recently there's two accidents that is happening in my constituency with regard to the school bus. So some of the students got injured, sir. So that's why a guideline for safety measure, it is very much necessary, sir, to be regulated to all the schools, especially in the rural areas. Because some of the schools, they're using a very old bus. There's no even a proper bus conductor. There's no driver also, no good driver. So that's why, sir, what I feel is that in order to avoid any unfortunate incident, a safety measure guideline should be issued to all the schools, especially in the rural areas, sir, so that to avoid this kind of incidents.
Sir, point is noted, sir.
We come to
Sir,
Miss, yeah.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I'd just like a little clarification from the Honorable Chief Minister. I just want to know if any schools that are interested in taking part in this scheme, to avail this scheme in other urban areas like Tura or other towns of the state can avail this scheme, or is it just Shillong specific?
Sir, we have started with Shillong. But of course, as I said, if this model works well, and if we find that it is something that is running well, as we have heard the concerns of so many members saying that will it function properly or not. So we are experimenting and we are piloting this project from Shillong. And if we see that it is doing well, then there is no reason why we will not expand it to other parts of the state.
Okay, Barden. This will be the last question because
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Sir, since the objective of the government is to decongest Shillong, which is why the government is offering school buses to the schools. So, don't you think it is necessary on the part of the government, sir, to stop issuing NOC or permission for school in the city? That will be a good idea, sir. I think stop issuing NOC for school establishment in Shillong area. That also will add on to solve the problem, sir, I think.
That is not related to the principal question.
No,
but,
it relates, sir,
but
because
if
this
the
objective
Minister in
deals...
charge, Honorable Chief Minister, wishes to...
No, that is another suggestion, sir, because it deals
Sir, yeah.
to decongest Shillong. That is the objective. I think if we keep giving permission for school to be set up in Shillong, the purpose will be defeated, sir.
Sir, of course, the concerns of congestion in Shillong city is for everybody to, we are all concerned about it. And that's the reason why we came out with this particular model, because we realized that there's a lot of congestion there. So of course, there are ways. Maybe one of the ways is what the Honorable Member has mentioned. But we also have to realize that education is also important. And, if we don't have schools coming up based on the population demographics that is changing, I think we all know, sir, that almost 75% almost 75% of our population is below the age of 35, and almost close to 15 lakh children are there who are below the age of 15 and in school going age, or rather I should say below 15. So hence there's a large population that requires these schools. So maybe it will not be appropriate for us to say respond to this right now and say stop schools in Shillong city. We have to see and balance both things out. Education is very, very crucial for our children, and having schools is very important. The schools should be accessible to the people, so we cannot discourage that. So let us try to balance things out and see how we could move forward. We could always keep in mind the aspect of congestion and see that if certain permissions are given for schools, then maybe they can have parking space for them. So the permissions can be made stricter, saying that, well, you can open the school provided you have space for parking, provided you have these conditions. So we can explore all those issues, but simply saying that we will not allow schools within Shillong in certain areas may not be the most prudent way to move forward. Education is important, but that's the reason why we are coming up with programs like these, so that we are able to balance out things. So there are critical problems. We need to balance it out, keep the overall interests of the state and the people in mind, and then take the decisions. But we'll note the point mentioned by Honorable Member and examine on how we could make things better, sir, in the future.